recording.
So good afternoon and good morning. And I'm so pleased to be with you today and talk with you about the work that's happening in the School of IT at Ivy Tech. My name is Linda Calvin. I'm Vice President of the School of IT at Ivy Tech Community College. Been with Ivy Tech for a little over, well, not over a year. And I'm here today to share with you some great work that we're doing in the School of IT. For those that don't know us, in the School of IT, we currently have 9 programs, but we are looking at the evolution of the tech ecosystem and looking at our programs. And you know what we've come to say is, or think about this is, you know, we react to tech versus respond to tech. And that means we can continue to offer a number of programs. And so soon we could go from 9 to 13 as tech is evolving. So we're going through a transformation right now. So we respond better to the tech ecosystem, align better to industry, so we can better respond, and then focus in on those opportunities that are high wage and high demand for our students. So here's what we look like today in our 9 programs. You have database management, software development, server administration, network infrastructure, IT support, cybersecurity, computer science, informatics, and visual communications. And I said that all in one breath, right? That's a lot of programs. And what I'm going to focus in on right now are 2 that are really evolving. So database management and server administration. And, you know, we started seeing lower enrollment, lower completions in these 2 programs, mainly because it's not that they're not relevant, they're just not what we're focused on today, right? So, you know, there were 2 paths for database management, really focused in on the DBA role, where choirs of angels used to sing, you know, behind a DBA as they entered the room. And it's not so much anymore, matter of fact. The focus is really on data analytics. So we're transforming that program into data analytics from database management. And then the same applies for server administration. We saw very low enrollment in that program. There were 2 paths, Linux and Microsoft. There were, you know, a number of changes happening where there were discontinued certifications. So what we're doing is now we have transformed these 2 programs, the data analytics and server administration, into cloud computing. And we're very excited that we are partnering with AWS to offer a cloud computing degree hopefully in 2021. And that's what we want to talk to you about today. There's a lot more transformation happening, but today we want to talk to you about our cloud program and how we're putting that together with AWS. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kevin Keathley, who will present the exciting credential of cloud.
Sorry about that. I thought I was unmuted. What you should be seeing is a really busy slide that sort of represents all of the pathways in our cloud computing program. As Linda just mentioned, this was previously our server admin program. We decided to transform into cloud computing. And so we sort of reimagined what it might look like and untethered ourselves to any preconceived notions about it. My chairs and I spent a bunch of time investigating what other colleges were doing. We're part of Linda and I are both part of a cloud associate's degree consortium with AWS, and looked at other members programs, some ahead of us, some behind, and found all the things that we thought that made a lot of sense and would work well for Ivy Tech, and came up with the pathways we're looking at here. So what you're seeing is 4 different pathways, sort of color coded. The first one is starts in AAS start with the green arrows going left to right. And we're going to actually progress through these one at a time. But if you were to go through the whole program, you would end up with 3 credentials from Ivy Tech, a Cloud Computing Associate's degree, a Cloud Foundation certificate, and a Ops DevOps certificate, which are sort of represented by the middle and right blue box there, the different courses that we're looking at here. So we're going to take a look at them one pathway at a time. I'm going to move down. And again, this is sort of the one that is Ivy Tech's bread and butter. We're real good at thinking about 19-year-old out of high school, wants to go into IT. How would we construct a pathway for them to learn all about IT and cloud? And this began with simply the same general education courses that we had in our server admin program. So we made no immediate changes to that. That's the blue box on the left there, which has our pretty standard block. There's some variance in terms of the level of math that are required based on the program and how much English, that sort of thing. But a pretty standard block of general education courses to begin this. There is a single course inside the arrow. It's the only one that's in an arrow. It's INFM 109. That's kind of our introduction to IT class. There's a reason that it's inside the arrow, and we'll show that here as we get to one of the other pathways. But starting at the blue box in the middle, that's sort of our Cloud Foundations certificate. And so in order to make this a little bit easier to look at, fairly typical for us is to have a content course. NETI 104, for example, is the content course for our Network Plus certification. And then there is NETI 114, that is a 1-credit certification prep course. And so instead of showing 2 different classes, we just call out the content course where you actually learn what's inside of the Net Plus certification. And show it as 4 credits. That sort of denotes the fact that that has a content course and a cert prep course. So again, NETI 104 directly relates to the CompTIA Net Plus certification. CSIA 105 is our Ivy Tech course for the CompTIA Security Plus, and it has a cert prep course too. That's why it's shown as 4 credits there. SVAD 116 is the Linux Plus both content and cert prep course. SVAD 121 is a Windows Server Enterprise server course, no certification for that, so it's shown just as the 3 credits for the content. SVAD 150 is our AWS Cloud Practitioner certification, and it deviates slightly from that theme. It has the 3 credit course includes both the course and the cert prep. That one did not require a separate cert prep course, so it's just shown as 3 credits, but it does lead to, and students sit for the Cloud Practitioner cert as part of that class. ITSP 175 is an existing course that is a ticketing course, but mainly IDLE based and ticket workflow class. We imagine that including monitoring and automation, sort of continual improvement as part of that class. So we'll either redevelop that class or create a new one. This was sort of a placeholder. And again, that is an existing course, as all of the ones in this section are. All of the Gen Ed courses already exist in those options, and all of the foundation courses here already exist at Ivy Tech and are running today. The only thing being that 175 needs a little bit of rework to get the exact content that we want in it. So if you were to sit for that block of courses and completed it successfully, you would have a Ivy Tech Cloud Foundations certificate, which we call CTs for short. They're generally 20 credits plus or minus worth of content that we bundle together into a clump of related things that we call a certificate or a CT. So if you were able to complete that successfully and pass the industry certs that are associated with that, you would end up with a Net Plus, Sec Plus, Linux Plus, a Cloud Practitioner, all industry certs, as well as exposure to ticketing, monitoring, Windows Server, and various other technologies. So that's sort of what you get out of the Cloud Foundations. Moving into the block to the right is our Ops DevOps CT. And so this one has got a whole lot more of work that we had to do to create them. This Python course, the first one that we list here is Python. Now we do have a Python course today, but it is a 200 level course that requires several others to get there. So that either needs to be reworked as a foundational ones, or we'll have to create another one. Because the point of this course is it's sort of coding for non-coders. So not necessarily this is obviously not a software development program. This is sort of your IT operations and cloud specific program. So we need a faster path to get student skills up, where it would definitely include Bash scripting and PowerShell and Python, a big dose of code management, GitHub, those sorts of things. And where that takes a little bit longer to develop in software development because they go much deeper. We need this course for this particular pathway because it's sort of a fast course, 3 credits. You're going to learn how to script, learn how to manage code and work in a team, and get those skills pretty quickly. So I'm going to move down just to the next one. The VMware storage class was envisioned. SVAD 150 is our cloud practitioner certification course. SVAD 250 in this block on the right is our solutions architect course. So that's the AWS Solutions Architect Associate course. So the VMware storage class was conceived for 2 reasons. For one, it's a pretty big jump where practitioner leaves off and the solution architect course starts. So one of the reasons for that course was to have all the things that would prepare students to be successful in solutions architect that wasn't previously covered would be put into that course. The other thing is that having taught quite a few people, even non-technical folks, about cloud, understanding virtualization really helps. I mean, if it wasn't for virtualization, we wouldn't have cloud. And storage is also a big part, particularly in public infrastructure cloud. A lot of roads lead back to storage. And so having a good understanding of virtualization and storage were sort of key. And then again, the other content for that course would be designed to enable students to be successful in the solutions architect course. We then have a cloud database course, which is exactly what you would think it would be. It's sort of a foundational course for a database, but again, this would all be using cloud infrastructure. The SDEV infrastructure automation class. Now this is the one that now that you have had your Python scripting, GitHub course, we're now going to get into infrastructure automation. So in that class, you would get into some of the specific tools, CloudFormation in AWS. You'd use probably Terraform, possibly Jenkins to do some orchestration, Chef and Puppet to do code deployment onto the infrastructure that you're automated. So this would be a chance to use a whole bunch of continuous integration, continuous deployment tools and orchestration tools to write code to deploy infrastructure and to load code on it. So again, after having that crash course in coding for students, they would get a chance to do some pretty practical infrastructure deployment and code deployment automation work in this infrastructure automation class. SVAD 250, the actual course number for that ended up being SVAD 220 is the official name, but that is our, again, the AWS Solutions Architect course. I probably could mention here, there's sort of 2 sides to the AWS public and higher ed. The AWS Academy has fully curated courses that institutions can deliver. And that's both the Academy Cloud Foundations, that's our SVAD 150, and the Academy Solutions Architect course, that's our SVAD 250, now 220. And there's also AWS Educate that has just content that you can use to cloudify existing courses, which we used quite a bit of that in some of these other SVAD courses to get some cloud content into other courses as well. So at the end of that, you would have a lot of exposure to AWS. And again, AWS has been a great partner. They supply infrastructure credits to students that are free and classrooms to us that are free. And so that they've been a great partner, and one of the reasons why we've got a lot of AWS that's baked into this. But we did want to have an opportunity for students to learn about Microsoft Azure, probably the second largest cloud provider, infrastructure provider. And so this was an idea we borrowed from one of our other CAD members, Texas State Technical College, that would map basically what you've learned, all the things you learned about AWS. You'd get sort of a flyby. Well, how does that work inside of the Azure environment? So for example, a VPC, a virtual private cloud, is a isolation construct inside of AWS. And they call that a VNet inside of Azure, and it functions largely the same, but whatever nuanced differences there are, that would be discussed in the class, and our students would have the chance to learn another cloud platform and get skilled at it. And it should go fairly quickly because they've already learned a lot about cloud before they've taken that course. So at the end of that, again, if you completed all of this coursework, including the gen eds, you would end up with an associate's degree in cloud computing, a cloud foundation certificate, and a DevOps certificate, Ops DevOps certificate from Ivy Tech. You would also have earned industry credentials in Net Plus, Sec Plus, Linux Plus, the cloud practitioner, the AWS solutions architect. Along with that, you would have touched VMware, gotten experience with Azure, lots of deployment automation in the various tools that we talked about in both the Python course and the infrastructure automation course. And all of that, I think, gives students great skills that are exactly what a whole lot of IT ops folks need today. And they'd hit the ground running. So that's sort of our complete pathway through the associate's degree. And we've got a few other skill up sort of ways of looking at this as well that I'm going to step into the next slide now. So what you'll see here, this is a little bit of a different user story. As I mentioned, the full pathway, the one that we largely instinctively go to, is sort of a high school graduate wants to get in IT. What does that pathway look for? And for them. So that's sort of a real natural tendency for us. These are some of the things that we picked up from other providers as well, that having different user stories and different on-ramps is something that could really benefit both the school and our students and even the communities we serve. So the idea behind this particular user path, and this might be somebody who maybe you mycomputercareer.com didn't got yourself an A+ somehow, and you've been working as a tier 1 help desk support person for a couple of years, and you want to just move your career forward, then this might be a user. That's sort of the user story we're thinking about in this case. So the reason that we had, as I mentioned earlier, we had INFM 109, sort of our intro to IT course inside the Arrow, because it's the thinking is that person, this user story, they would just clip out of that by taking an exam. They wouldn't have to take the intro to IT course. They could literally just start right into the meat of what is in this cloud foundation certificate. So again, just that certificate alone, it starts with an arrow, it ends with a block. You would get a cloud foundation CT by going through these 6 courses that are shown here. And if you successfully completed that, you would have a cloud foundation CT from Ivy Tech. You would also have Net Plus, Sec Plus, Linux Plus, cloud practitioner, exposure to Windows Server, and some IT ticketing and monitoring and continual improvement that you'd get from that ITSP 175 class. So chances are high, I would say, if you did successfully complete all of that, you probably became tier 2 somewhere along the way. You're likely to be dealing with more difficult problems. You would have deeper skills in networking and cloud and both Linux and Windows operating systems, and that sort of thing would likely advance your career at least into a tier 2 kind of role. Looking at this next pathway, it's basically through the cloud foundations, but then continuing on into our Ops DevOps set of courses. So this is the same sort of thing. Maybe you've been in IT for a few years longer and you decide you're wanting to move all the way up into a tier 3 role. This is probably a pretty good way to do it. moving through that same set of courses that are the cloud foundations, you would continue on into the ops DevOps work that would include all of that crash course in coding and code management, VMware storage, cloud, database solutions architecture, and lots of exposure to both AWS and Azure as part of that as well. It's, again, likely that if you had those sorts of skills, you're probably moved into a tier 3 support role, or in an enterprise shop, you're probably even part of a project team that's working on digital transformation kind of work, doing deployment automation, besides just doing potentially support work, tier 3 level support work. So the last one we have, the last pathway we have here, it's probably one of the trickiest ones for us. This would be, how would we allow a user story that would allow someone to just take this last ops DevOps certificate? And what are the exact, now obviously if someone said, well, I had my A+ forever ago, I've been working in IT for 8 years now, I also have a Net Plus, Sec Plus, and Linux Plus, they're probably a pretty good candidate for starting that. I think I mentioned before that we're Ivy Tech's a nonprofit. We're not in the prereq business as a revenue optimization thing. We're doing that. The prereqs are designed to help you to assure you to be successful in the program. And so without forcing you to take a whole bunch of Ivy Tech courses that are the prereqs to satisfy your beginning in this Ops DevOps CT, what's the other ways we could do it? And it probably is some combination of, well, you got to CLEP out of INFM 109, our Intro to IT course, and then maybe you need to hold a couple of these certs, Net Plus, Sec Plus, Linux Plus, in order to start. To do some of that work, we'll have to iterate on that some to decide what is the right way to at least try to assure that students can be successful in this program. But it's something that we're pretty committed to doing. This the Ops DevOps certificate itself, which is this last block of courses that includes lots of scripting, lots of cloud, database, and solutions architecture in a couple of different cloud platforms. Those are the sorts of skills. There are, I would venture to say, hundreds, if not thousands, of students or the people working in IT infrastructure today in Central Indiana that could really use that block of courses that would give them cloud skills and sort of infrastructure as code. Lots of the things that one of the things that the cloud changed is, it's all code now, right? What used to be physical servers deployed in data centers, that still exists, obviously, but there are way more of these infrastructure being deployed in the cloud, and all of that can be represented by code and repos. And so lots of people that have been working in IT and have fundamental skills in IT could use a lot of these skills to figure out how to code that sort of infrastructure deployment and work in teams to do that exact kind of work. So I don't know if we want to talk at all about our Skills Academy, but that's a non-credit thing that we're talking about working on that would allow us to do some of this iterating to try to help assure that students can be successful in these programs. But it's a new thing for us to be thinking about, not just the pathway itself, but what sort of on-ramps and off-ramps make sense in different user stories that support students of all ages that are either wanting to start their career or upskill themselves to advance their career.
Yeah, I think so, Kevin. And I think that's a great introduction to Skills Academy and thinking about how we can get those skills to people. So example, the person that's worked in IT for, 10 years and really wants to up their game in cloud and learn more. So that's what the Skills Academy will do. And just to share briefly on that, the Skills Academy, we will launch in fall of 2021. Ivy Tech was selected to be one of 6 community colleges across the United States to participate in the Community College Growth Engine Fund initiative from Education Design Lab out of DC. And so we're building a Skills Academy to offer micro credentials and across the sectors, business, supply chain, logistics, advanced manufacturing, and of course, tech, our favorite. And so as part of that skills academy, we want to offer cloud as a non-credit option. So for those people who want to come in, hit their skill sets, not necessarily invested in a credit bearing credential. The great thing about it will be that if you want to come in and get a cloud foundation CT or the ops DevOps, that you can get that. And then, you know, if there's something else that you're really interested in doing, we transfer those skills over into a credit bearing credential. And so we're really excited to offer cloud as part of that. And that, again, that's in fall of next year. So we're going to have so many ramps to getting a cloud education. It's just like super exciting. And we are ready for, you know, to establish Indiana, maybe even as the place where you find a cloud Jedi. So had a conversation with Michael Angelier last week to say, you know what if we hang our hat on this? And when you think about where you find talent and across the United States, and you go, you know, we really need some cloud folks. I heard Indiana is just like this repository of cloud talent, like the Jedi Council. And so that's what we want to be, right? That we are the first place you think about. And on top of Indiana, that the first place you think about is Ivy Tech.
Right.
So thank you very much for this time to talk about the cloud. If there are any questions, certainly you can reach out to me or Kevin Keathley, who's Dean of the School of IT Indianapolis. If you don't have any contact information for us, I'm sure that Jeff Tunn, Master Jedi of all things IT, can get you in touch with us. So thank you.